Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Are you ready? Claws. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Yeah, another gray day in Maine. Like I said yesterday, there was going to be some soggy days. It hasn't started raining here yet, though, even though it has in some spots in Maine already. But we're just getting the clouds right now, and the temperature really isn't that cold out. It's really kind of warm, so you know, I've been wearing my spring coat, outside, but it's almost like too warm even to wear that. But lots of variations in temperature and and stuff like that going on right now, I guess. So probably see more of that. They say probably the next couple of days they'll be pretty much the same. So who knows? Well, today. James and Jennifer Crumbly. They're the parents of the boy who went and shot up Oxford High School. And today, the parents got 10 to 15 years each for being neglectful, essentially, not seeing the signs that were there that their son was dangerous, and not taking steps to keep access from their own weapon, gun that they had. He managed to get that. Ethan, their son Ethan. So let me read a little bit here. This from People magazine. It says, James and Jennifer Crumbly apologized to the parents of the Oxford High School shooting victims before being sentenced to prison. James and Jennifer Crumbly, the parents of convicted Michigan high school shooter Ethan Crumbly, were sentenced to 10 to 15 years in prison. They were both convicted of 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter in connection with the deadly 2021 shooting at Oxford High School. God, seems like it happened sooner than that, It's been a number of years, huh? Juries decided that both parents, who were tried separately, were accountable for their son's actions by failing to take steps to prevent the shooting. Judge Cheryl Matthews handed down the sentences in court Tuesday, according to reports from the Associated Press. On November 30 of 2021, James and Jennifer's son shot and killed Hannah St. Juliana, who was 14 years old, Tate Meyer, who was 16, Justin Schilling, who was 17, and Madison Baldwin, who was 17, all students at Oxford High School in Oxford, Michigan, and injured 7 others. Families of the victims read victim impact statements at Tuesday's hearing, which was live streamed by the AP. Nicole Beausoleil, the mother of Madison Baldwin, addressed James and Jennifer directly. Quote, "While you were purchasing a gun for your son and leaving it unlocked, I was helping her finish her college essays," unquote. Rena St. Juliana, whose sister Hannah was killed, also spoke in court. Quote, I never got to say goodbye, unquote, she said. Quote, I never got to remind her that I loved her, unquote. James and Jennifer were charged with involuntary manslaughter days after the shooting. Prosecutors have argued that both parents had failed to prevent their son's actions, pointing to a meeting held between the parents and school officials the morning of the shooting. The meeting, which was called after the shooter drew a picture of a gun, ended abruptly, and he remained in school that day. Jennifer was convicted on all counts in February. James was convicted the following month. At his sentencing, James apologized to the families of the victims killed by his son. Quote, as a parent, our biggest fear is losing our child or our children, and to lose a child is unimaginable, unquote, James said. Quote, my heart is really broken for everybody involved, unquote. After James's conviction, Ven Johnson, an attorney for the victims' families, released a statement obtained by People. Quote, this guilty verdict, along with those found against the shooter's mother, Jennifer Crumbly, won't bring back the lives of these 4 students, but it represents one more step towards holding everyone accountable under the law, which is justice for the victims' families and the Oxford community, unquote. The statement read in part. The shooter was sentenced to life in prison in 2023 after pleading guilty to 24 charges, including terrorism. So, yeah. So the thing right now that's going around the media is, did the judge overstep herself by punishing the parents that severely? You know, I watched, you know, the statements being read by Jennifer and her husband and stuff, and Jennifer's reading of her statement or before the sentencing came off flat, unemotional, like she was reading an ad out of a damn, help wanted ad out of a newspaper. I mean, it just didn't have any affect on her. I mean, it just like it didn't matter. Okay. In my mind, I feel like maybe she just feels like she's being victimized, that it's not her fault. And her husband, didn't sound like he was all that, broken up either about what, why they were there. More upset the fact that they're being punished here. But this isn't the first time parents were held accountable for their kids' actions and stuff. I mean, I think it was 3-4 years ago or something. There was a parents here where the father had bought their son a gun for Christmas. And then the following year, the kid used that gun in school and shot up the place. Even after he was sending out warning signs, like pretty much like what this kid was doing. That he was drawing these bloody pictures and stuff like that, and he was basically falling apart mentally. And the school counselors wanted to get a hold of the parents. And say, hey, look, your kid's doing this and that, and the parents didn't seem to really have time to even listen to it. And the father sends the kid a text message, or the mother did actually, and tells him, you should have known better than to draw stuff like that or whatever. What were you thinking? I mean, basically the parents were responded in a bizarre fashion, and so they were held accountable for that. Remember, they fled and they were looking for these two. And I'm sorry I can't remember the name. I mean, because there's so many fucking shootings that go on in this country that, to keep track of that, you'd have to be a fucking computer, okay, to keep that in your mind, But it's sad that that's the way it is now in America. You come to this country, you could be shot just for stepping foot on the ground. I mean, I don't, what I'm saying? That's just how it is now. And Maine is starting to get, bad too. If you've been reading news in this state, we got a drug problem that's escalating through the roof. It feels like we're back in the 70s here, and we got a drug war going on here, and people are being arrested and shot and rounded up. Christ, I mean, I saw somebody that I knew vaguely when I was younger have been arrested, and you know, and at Penobscot County Jail there. I mean, Christ, it's all kinds of this shit going on now. But that's the signs of the time here. But to hold people responsible for their children's actions when the kids aren't even 18 yet. Okay, this kid wasn't 18. It's your responsibility. It's like, you know, when you own a car, it's under your name. Okay, you have to register it. You got to maintain it. You got to have a license to have it. Okay, it's your responsibility. Having a child is the same thing. Okay, until that child is considered an adult and is on his own, that's your responsibility. What that kid does or doesn't do, okay, it's on you. And we've been letting that slide for too long. I mean, how many school shootings can we go back and say, well, the parents should have had to answer for that in some fashion? A lot of this, that didn't happen. In a lot of cases, it didn't happen. The parents were never put under the spotlight or the microscope, and nobody was ever giving any thought to the fact, well, how much are they responsible for what their kids did, you know, and should they have been brought to court for not raising their kids right? Because, like I said, this is high school. These kids are not considered adults yet, okay, and they're still under the guidance of their parents, or their guardians. But you know, I mean, had this happen, the very first school shooting, had that happen, the parents were punished for what their kids did, that might have made a difference in the frequency of these mass killings in schools, don't you think? I think that it would have. I think that, you know, if the parents were held responsible in every single case, you know, the parents themselves would have been forced to make the choice. Should I have a gun in this house or not? Because what if my kid gets it? What if my kid's able to get that gun and use it? You know, if I'm raising a child, should I even have a gun in the house? Locked or unlocked, it doesn't matter. The kids know how to get into these things. You know? So it puts it back on the table. Now, a lot of these people, because they're gun owners, probably a Republican. I'm not saying they're all. There's Democrats out there that like to have guns too, but I'm just saying, in a lot of these cases, and I think maybe quite a few of them were probably Republicans, would rather keep that gun, that right to have the gun, over keeping their kid out of prison. Okay? That's how I view it anyway. And, you know, because I think that a lot of people that are pissed off right now, or today, because those parents have to go to prison now, are the same silly sons of bitches who are out there advocating for people to own as many guns as you fucking can afford. Okay? The same ones that are out there twisting the Second Amendment to fit their fucking agenda. And those are the people right now pissed off. And when I saw this on, well, I'm gonna say on TV. I saw it on my phone. Okay, watching the news on the phone as it was happening. I already could see the media trying to lay down the foundation to say, oh, do these parents have a way to appeal this? It's like, why would you even ask that? You would only ask that if you didn't think they had any part in this thing, that they did their job as parents, that they, you know, but that's not what they found, is it? Because all the evidence that was discovered about this thing showed that they were neglectful. They weren't paying attention, or they didn't care. So why would anybody think about an appeal? Well, fortunately, the answer to their question here, was that because they had found so much evidence to show that they did have a lot to do with why that kid had that gun, an appeal would not be a possibility for them. Okay, unless they find some judge who's, you know, really right wing or something, and thinks that, you know, he could make a precedent by overturning this verdict. Okay, and they would have to find such a judge, which probably wouldn't be too hard today. All they got to do is call out Donald Trump and ask him, you know, which judge is the best judge we can go. You know, maybe he'll probably say, oh, go get, you know, Eileen Loose Cannon there. She'll help you out. But, you know, what I'm saying is that right, it seems to me like the press is wanting to lean or pull everyone's opinion in the direction that these parents should not be held accountable for this. Okay? And my opinion is no. The harder you pull me that way, I'm pulling twice as hard the other way, because I think that this is something that should have been going on for decades in this country to curb the frequency of these school shootings. Instead, they want to talk about arming the teachers, which is something else that came out today in the news about, the discussion about arming teachers in school again. That's a discussion we've already had and rejected in this country. We don't like the idea of our teachers having to carry guns. We send people to college who want to be teachers a certain curriculum that they have to know to be a teacher. No curriculum is included in there on carrying a gun or learning how to beat the kids, punishment or anything like that. That's not their job as a fucking teacher. You want to keep your kids disciplined. That's the job of the parents. You call the parents when that child is misbehaving, okay? And when the parents ain't doing anything about it, then you expel the kid. That's the system that we've had in place in our public schools for decades. The problem is nobody wants to do that, okay? Instead, they want to keep the kids in school and watch them turn into monsters until they come one day and have a gun pointed at your head, okay? Well, if that's the way it's going to be, then we're going to have to hold the parents accountable for that. If your kid goes to school, brings a gun, points it at somebody's head, and pulls the trigger, your finger is just as much on that damn trigger as that kid, okay? So I think that this is really the right way to go. This has got to be a kick in the pants to our society to say, look, you're gonna take responsibility for this. You can't just throw it all on the cops or throw it all on the teachers, the principal, your representatives. You can't throw it all on us. The parents have to take some of the blame, because you're there. You're at ground zero with your kid, and you see what they're doing. You should be watching what they're doing. You should be talking to them and asking them, how's your day? Tell me what's going on with school. And when your kid's drawing these pictures of dead bodies surrounded by, blood, ask that kid, why are you drawing this? If you're not inquisitive, if you're not going to be there for them, how the hell do you expect the rest of society to be there for you when something like this happens? The truth is that, parents have had it easy with their kids doing heinous things in our country here for too long. And now it's time to hold them to the fire. Because if we can't motivate the kids to do the right thing, then we're going to have to motivate the parents in order to have them motivated to do the right thing. And otherwise, don't have any kids. I mean, I said for a long time, there's a lot of parents in our society that shouldn't have any kids, shouldn't have raised any kids at all, because they weren't very responsible and not very good parents to begin with, or parental material to begin with. They shouldn't have had any kids, but people do, and what comes out of those homes is an abomination in a lot of cases. I mean, you don't know. But the fact is that, maybe this will instill some kind of fear in people, and to say that, look, we take the responsibility of raising the kids. That means everything that happens with that kid and our guardianship has to fall on us. Whether that kid gets sick and dies, or whether the kid steals a gun and shoots up the place, the eyes of justice are going to also have to fall on the parents too. Okay, that's only fair. You can't lay it all on the kid. Kids are not born to be killers. Okay, that's something they learn or shouldn't learn depending on what kind of parents they have. Apparently, a lot of parents today don't seem to look too deep into the art of parenting. You know what I'm saying? They don't seem to, to want to understand, or at least look at themselves. I mean, take a look at your life when you was a little kid and stuff like that, and imagine how it would have been if your parents weren't there, or what would have happened if your parents were there. How would your life have been different? And if they can't really look back and answer that question honestly to themselves, okay, then how are they ever going to know how important parenting is? So the only way they're going to know is when they're in these situations where the justice system has to get involved and slap them in the face and say, you fucked up. You fucked up big time. You should have saw it. You should have saw it. If you were a good parent, you would have seen this. Even an average parent would have seen this and gotten concerned. But you guys didn't. So you're going to have to take responsibility to some degree about what your son or your daughter or whoever did. Okay? It's only fair. That's fair justice as far as I'm concerned.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me!
This is me.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Ruth McLaughlin, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
Well, Mar-a-Lago hasn't exactly been the Garden of Eden, that's true. After all, what have we got here? He took a little loan, he had to overdraw. Some golf, a beach, a pool, a spa. Someone should have foreclosed on this place years ago. A bench, a tree. What's a ballroom or a boutique? People who pass through Mar-a-Lago only come here to bribe Trump. A golden toilet. Top secret files. What do we leave? Nothing much. Only Mar-a-Lago. Mar-a-Lago, Mar-a-Lago, undertaxed, overdone, Mar-a-Lago. Where else could MAGA plant its feet? Mar-a-Lago, Mar-a-Lago, gaudy and deplorable, Mar-a-Lago, where all the people are effete. Soon we'll see that smirk wiped off his fat orange face. Donald Trump is soon to be displaced from Mar-a-Lago.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime. I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Okay, so another story here, which surprisingly has appeared again here, which is ridiculous, but Amanda Knox is facing another slander trial in Italy that could remove the last legal stain against her. Okay, so I'm going to read this from the AP as well. Amanda Knox faces another trial for slander this week in Italy in a case that could remove the last legal stain against her, 9 years after Italy's highest court threw out her conviction for the murder of her 21-year-old British roommate. Knox, who was just 20 years old when she was accused along with her then boyfriend of murdering Meredith Kircher in 2007, has built a life back in the United States as an advocate, writer, podcaster, and producer, with much of her work drawing on her experience. Now 36 years old and the mother of 2 small children, Knox campaigns for criminal justice reform and to raise awareness about forced confessions. She has recorded a series on resilience for a meditation app and has a podcast with her husband, Christopher Robinson, and an upcoming limited series on her struggles within the Italian legal system for Hulu that has Monica Lewinsky as an executive producer. Despite a definitive ruling by Italy's Cassation Court in 2015 that Knox and then boyfriend Rafael Solicito did not commit the crime, and the conviction of another man whose DNA was at the scene, doubts persist about Knox's role with the victim's family and the man she wrongfully accused. That is largely due to the slander conviction for wrongly accusing a Congolese bar owner in the killing, which was confirmed by the highest court in 2015. That conviction was only thrown out last November based on a European Court of Human Rights ruling that found Knox's rights had been violated in a long night of questioning without a lawyer and official translator. Even now, Knox isn't sure that a not guilty verdict in the new trial, which opens Wednesday in Florence, will persuade her detractors. Quote, "On the one hand, I am glad I have this chance to clear my name, and hopefully that will take away the stigma that I have been living with," unquote, Knox, who did not respond to an interview request, said on her podcast Labyrinths in December. Quote, "On the other hand, I don't know if it ever will. In the way, I am still traumatized by it," unquote. She said, quote, "I am sure people will still hold it against me because they don't want to understand what happened and they don't want to accept that an innocent person can be gaslit and coerced into what I went through," unquote. Knox said on her podcast that she expects to testify, but her lawyer said she is not expected in court for opening day. The Kircher family lawyer, Francesco Maresca, said the High Court's exoneration did little in his mind to dispel doubts following Knox's conviction by a trial court and 2 appeals courts, the first confirming her sentence of 26 years and the second raising it to 28 and a half years. Quote, "This trial never ends," unquote, Maresca told the Associated Press, obscuring the, quote, "memory of poor Meredith, who was always remembered for these procedural aspects and not as a student and young woman," unquote. Among his doubts, Maresca cited Knox's confused retraction of her accusation against Patrick Lumumba, the owner of the bar where she worked part-time, and the verdict in Rudy Guade's conviction for killing Kircher that maintains that the Ivorian man did not act alone. Now 36, Guade was released from prison in 2021 after serving 13 years of a 16-year term handed down in a fast-track trial. Guide was recently ordered to wear a monitoring bracelet and not leave his home at night after an ex-girlfriend accused him of physical and sexual abuse. An investigation is ongoing. Knox's new trial will admit just one piece of evidence, her 4-page handwritten statement that the court will examine to see if it contains elements to support slander against Lumumba. Despite having an ironclad alibi, he was held in jail for some 2 weeks before police released him. Lumumba has since left Italy. 2 earlier statements, typed up by police that Knox signed in the early hours of November the 6th, 2007, that contained the accusation and were considered the most incriminating, have been ruled inadmissible by Italy's highest court. The 4-page letter, which she wrote in the same 53-hour span of questioning over 4 days, started November the 5th, reflects someone in a state of confusion trying to reconcile what police have told her with her own recollections. Quote, in regards to this confession that I made last night, I want to make clear that I'm very doubtful of the verity of my statements because they were made under the pressures of stress, shock, and extreme exhaustion, unquote, Knox wrote. She referred to police statements that she would be arrested in jail for 30 years and that Sollecito was turning against her. Gloria Baldassare, an Italian lawyer who founded the Innocence Project, said the topic of wrongful convictions in Italy is starting to, quote, create social alarm as it assumes important dimensions, unquote. He cited 10 cases of defendants being paid damages for wrongful convictions over the last 10 years, but said they faced difficulty in escaping the stigma of their initial guilty verdict, much like Knox. Quote, there is still part of the public opinion that does not accept the court of Cassation's decision, and these debates become a sport, unquote, said Baldassare, whose organization is independent from the Innocence Project that Knox works with. Quote, Italy does not have the maturity to accept an exoneration because social prejudices are stronger than the finding, unquote. Yeah, I tend to agree. I think that because Amanda Knox is an American and, you know, the way she was behaving over there as an American, which is not unusual if you know, see kids her age at that time in this country, they read into it too much, and there might have been some prejudice a little bit against Americans over there, which is why, you know, I've said many times before in earlier videos here, because you're an American, that doesn't mean that, you know, you're safe or anywhere else in the world. There's a lot of countries out there that hate our guts, unfortunately, and it has nothing to do with you, but it does have a lot to do with our government that can't seem to keep its nose out of other people's business, okay? And at the same time, because our government is so erratic, because we're constantly getting new presidents and stuff like that, where we stand on any given day in this country is always up for grabs, and we're very confusing to other countries who don't have that kind of democracy, all right? So we're not really well liked, and whenever you say American, I mean, they don't know you personally. They just think we're all in it together, you know. Whether we liked our president or not doesn't matter. If he's president, then we all like the president. It's like Trump, okay? A lot of us didn't like Trump, but because overseas they don't know that, they think we all love Trump here. So we're all bad. We're all bad, okay? And so that's how we get this thing that we're, you know, Americans are shit. And so if you go into these other countries, you know, you're gonna face some of that prejudice, you know, and that's probably going to be unusual for you because you've never faced that before. But I faced it when I was in Germany for a year and a half. I seen it come in, you know, in forms, and it's yeah, it is kind of disquieting when you hear it. When you see people, you know, laughing at you or something because you did nothing wrong, but because you're an American, you know, you could tell, you know, even though you don't know how to speak the language, you can read body language, okay? And you can, you know, you can pick up enough to know that, you know, hey, you know, I'm the butt of somebody's joke here. And because I'm wearing my uniform and stuff like that, you know, it's hard not to know why. So it's, you know, so when you're a college student and you go to this Italy, okay, to go to learn some stuff and things, and you get yourself into some legal trouble, you shouldn't be, you know, surprised if the legal system in these other countries comes down extra hard on you. Plus, at the same time, you had an investigator who was like that country's Columbo, okay, well known, and a guy that's obviously known this and has an ego, doesn't want to be shown that he was wrong in what you know what he concluded, given that they didn't have the same level of detail and investigation as you would find in the United States. He did, you know, basically his word was God over there. I mean, it was just, you know, if he said that you were guilty, then everybody says you're guilty. That's too much power to give to one investigator, regardless of his history. And, you know, when a guy like that is used to working inside of a system that's really not what you consider up to par with the United States' justice system. Not to say that ours is any superior, but there is some kind of oddity. There is differences there that are worth knowing, you know, about Italy's justice system. That, you know, you say, oh, why are they still doing that? You know, so you know, a guy working in that system is going to find it easy to do convictions, to get, you know, to pin things on people, especially when you're popular like this guy was, or I can't remember his name, but the old man that was investigating that, who's to this day still says Amanda's guilty, says she did it, even though the evidence doesn't even iron that out. Okay, it just, there's just no, the DNA evidence really wasn't there to suggest that. It's a lot of it's circumstantial, you know, and there's nothing there. There's no smoking gun there that says it. And to this day, that murder's still unsolved. Okay, and that's because of the lack of investigating skill and detail that Italy's police put into the thing. If they had done a better job, they probably would have had a conviction of some sort of 100, more closer to 100% certainty. Okay, they never would have ended up with Amanda Knox, but because he had the country of Italy on his side, and he goes around to this day still saying with an absolute certainty that she's guilty. People over there are going to constantly say, yeah, she's guilty, she got away scot-free, and that only adds more fuel to the fire of anti-Americanism, or, you know, anti-American sentiments over there. That's only going to make it harder for other Americans to go over there and visit that country, because the minute they see you, they're going to think, oh, you're just like Amanda Knox. You know, you think your shit don't stink and you can come over here and murder and get away with it. You know, that's how they're going to look at you. So, you know, for Amanda, after all these years, the reason I was kind of like, you know, why is this coming up again? You know, Amanda needs to cut her losses. You're not going to get everything you want out of that country, Amanda. Forget it. Okay. Just count your blessings that you're back on your home soil and you're not over there, because if you were over there, they would have found a way to arrest you for something just to put you back in lockup and railroad you again. I know that, and I think you do too. So be thankful you're not here, and don't keep poking the lion, because eventually they'll try to do something, because all that does is energize those people over there with their hatred of Americans. You know what I'm saying? By having you, you know, doing this and bringing this up, you know, and, you know, your podcasts are fine and stuff like that. They probably see it, you know, and they don't, and that just keeps it going. You know, they're hating you even more just for, you know, having to do this. And like I said, it's really, you know, forget it. You know, the people over there are just never going to look at you as innocent, largely because of the investigator who had a bigger reputation than you did, and that whole country just trusts what he finds or what he didn't find. All right, and his opinion holds a little more weight than actual shooting a smoking gun does. So anyway, I know it seems like a lot of hot air over really nothing, but this, you know, this legal stain thing that she's trying, you know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's not going to do anything. You know, they're still going to hate her. They're still going to talk shit about her. And she's just going to have to learn how to ignore that and move on. I mean, with this stuff. But, you know, she's got kids now. She's got a family. You know, she's got things she's doing. You know, take pride in that, you know. And like I said, it's just, you know, I know it's not, you can't really wipe it out because it was a traumatic thing that happened. The whole goddamn mess it really shouldn't have happened the way it did, but it did. You know, somebody, if it wasn't you, it would have been somebody else. Okay, because you know how people are at that age. I seen it when I was in the service, that, you know, just because you're in the military doesn't mean a 20-year-old soldier is going to be any less crazy than a 20-year-old college student. There's, you know, there's same shit. Okay, so I've seen it. I know how crazy things can get. And unfortunately, people in parts of our world or even in our own country seem to forget that as they get older, how wild it is, you know, when you're, you know, at that age. You know, they can do a lot of damage to themselves without even realizing it. But, you know, you know what happened there, when you got more than one or two people living in the same building, you know, I mean, Jesus, I mean, anything is going to go, it could happen, you know, Christ, I mean, the fingers get pointed in 80 different directions, you know, and this people coming in and out of the apartment, and you know, you don't know what's going on. How can you? I mean, so, you know, I would challenge any policeman to be able to pick up the pieces after something like that in the same circumstances, and try to come up with an answer, you know, especially if they don't have the evidence to back it up. You know what I'm saying? It's just, you can't, things like that, you got to take details, you got to have proof as you go, because a jury's never going to really, you know, see it as clear as, say, one investigator who seems to think this is how it happened. Okay. At least a jury should never make leaps of faith in court. It should always be, they make their decision based on the facts leading them to the crime. And if you ain't got it, don't expect the jury to come back with sensible verdicts, because it's not going to happen. You know, that's the duty of the lawyers, to be able to give the jury all they need to be able to make the best decision they can. Because, hey, we don't get our juries from school. Okay, we just yank these people off the streets. So a lot of them have come from different educational backgrounds. So you're going to have to pretend that it's Sesame Street with these people. You know, when you give them cases to think about, especially big ones, you're going to have to give them the evidence, and not circumstantial evidence A to B to C to D, you know, to get a verdict. And you avoid shit like this, what happened in Italy, you know. And I mean, that's not a whole lot to ask for, right? You know, I mean, the DNA thing is a good thing to have now. We didn't have before, but now that we do, that helps us to they'll make those connections better for the juries. So, anyway, I feel like I'm just rambling here. So, I'll talk to everybody again, and I hope everybody has a great rest of the week. So please subscribe, comment, and hit the like button if you like what I'm talking about, because maybe then I can see what kind of direction you all want me to go with talking about things, and that way I'll know. So keep your ears open for any COVID or whatever hell kind of news is floating around out there, and treat each other nice, please, and I'll see you all later.